So I'll start off by saying Sat Sri Akal, which is a blessing and a hello in our culture and our language. And my name is Sarabjit Singh Sabharwal, and I am one of the organizers of the India Fusion Pavilion, and I've also had the pleasure of serving on the city's Diversity and Inclusionary Advisory Committee. So our involvement with the festival has been since its inception, and actually slightly prior to it when the city was applying for the Cultural Capital of Canada grant back in, I think it was 2007. But since then I've been a member of the India Pavilion for every year that it's been in existence. Over the last 10 years, there's a lot of memories that we've made. I mean, of course, some do stand out, but I think every year we have some sort of favorite memory. One of my fondest memories, of course, was I think one year when there was a performance that happened late at night. I think it was the three tenors. There's three guitarists that had come up. It was towards the end of the day, probably about I think 9 o'clock or a little bit earlier, and we were wrapped up and cleaning up, and we took a moment's breather and we just sat there, and it was evening time. The three tenors had come on, and just the ambiance of being exposed to how a different culture plays the guitars. We were all kind of lost in that moment. It was kind of like it was a binding moment amongst the audience that was there, and we were all just in it was a great sense of sort of being together with people and enjoying music. What we hoped with that the festival would be, what the purpose of the festival would be. That was one of my highlights, I think. Another great highlight was, of course, having my nephew Jay Sean come and perform one of the years. I think it was probably one of the largest audiences that was at the festival for a concert. And apart from that, just general interactions with so many people in the pavilions and making friends with the various other pavilions. I've gained some great friendships, like with the Canadian pavilion, and of course one of my best friends from the pavilion would be from France as well. So it's just that culture interaction and meeting people that become lifelong friends years. That's probably the greatest memory that we've had. Actually, one more thing as well, and that is the pavilion. We started off something which was the Turpentine event, and the very first year was a year of a little bit of uncertainty as to how the community would react to it, and so I was quite nervous about it, not understanding how maybe people would react to taking that cross into a different culture in a physical aspect. And the response was just amazing. And I think out of the entire festival, that has to be one of the most gratifying memories that I have, to know that people were willing and open to cross over, to wear a garment that's so culturally respected in our community, and actually learn how to respect it and understand the process behind it. That was a shock to me. It was actually a pleasant surprise, and probably one of my fondest memories that I hope we continue the tradition of. I think the aspect of, for me, is a little bit more than cultural awareness. For our entire pavilion, we've always tried to create our pavilion as something that is more of a cultural immersion, and in ways that, like, of course we can see visually differences amongst ourselves, but until we actually understand what it feels to be, wearing a turban or tying on a sari, we don't understand what it is and how it feels. And that is, I think, the feeling element is something that's very critical to us, and that is something that I think we've tried to make an importance in our pavilion. So all the things that we've done, we've had years where we've had yoga training, or kite flying, which is a huge cultural element in India. We call them patangs. We've had years where we try to have that as an immersive sort of a cultural element, or of course the sari tying and the turban tying and mehndi, for example. Like, what more way of immersion can you get than wearing mehndi on your hands and having that last for weeks afterwards? And turbans people get to keep, and we try to teach them the respect that we put behind it, and that was something that we did in the thousands of numbers in a yearly fashion, and that was something probably which I think cultural immersion and the cultural awareness of that was hugely successful every year, and it gets larger every year as we progress. I think, obviously, of course, one of the biggest things you can learn, of course, is how people are so proud of their own culture. I found people that were playing the musical instruments. It's just when you approach someone and ask them about the history of where, how their dress is, the colors, the meaning of the colors, or how their food is prepared, that sort of inquisitiveness that we have with them, it lights them up, and they're very eager to talk about where they're from, why they wear certain colors, or their foods and how they're prepared, and I find that sort of awareness that we have through that interaction is fantastic. And there's so many things, like even simple things like art, for example. When you go to the various pavilions, you'll see religious inscriptions and say 1/10, and you ask people about the meaning behind that, and they'll give you a good 10-15 minute history of their culture and religious connections, which I find fascinating, and it does help to bind us all. We learn a little bit more about each other, and those things that we see as foreign in many ways, when you ask them and you learn about it, you understand that we're all basic people. We have different backgrounds and histories, and so this sort of awareness of understanding why we are and how we are is a way to sort of help our city mold together. The first dish I'll eat, I probably should say Indian, but I'm gonna say I'm gonna hit the France Pavilion again. I just love their crepes, especially the savory ones. I've always tried to get the pineapple drinks, but I've never managed it because the lineups are just too long. So if any of the pavilion members there want to maybe slip me one in the back, I love that. And of course, pierogies, fantastic one. I'm a vegetarian, so I try to look for as many vegetarian options, and there's plenty. And sometimes just ask the pavilion members, and they'll be more than happy to accommodate. But I'm looking forward to I'll try some new foods this year too, definitely.